Hello, hello, beautiful women, beautiful ladies. It is super exciting for me to come on here once again, and this time with my friend Brenda Hall, who I met 2 years ago. I believe it was 2 years ago, right? And we experienced a training together, a leadership training together. So we shared this beautiful space of growth, of expansion, of doing all the inner work and the powerful work that has gotten us to where we are today. And so I am all about connection. I have been connecting like deeply with those good friendships and really creating space and creating the moment to say like, hey, what are you up to? How can we come together? How can we collaborate? How can we grow together? And more than that, like, what is that ripple effect that we're creating in the world? What is it that we're bringing to our communities? And so that is why we are here. That is why I'm so excited to bring her on and to have this conversation. So, Brenda, I am super excited that we are here today to talk about juicy stuff. I know there is something that will come out of this conversation that all the women watching this conversation will be like, yes, that's exactly what I needed, because it has happened to me before. So tell us about you, who you are. Tell them about you, who you are, what you're creating in the world, and what is that step that you're taking today? Like, what do you want? Like, what do you want right now? That's the magic.
Oh, yes, right. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, thank you, Paola. As we were having this, vulnerable conversation, and then, why not invite our women, that have been following us. And, I'm also known as the courageous woman. I am the creator of a summit, called Courageous Woman. And I had 21 experts that came together and spoke in, to a group of women. And, that I continued to minister or coach, after that. But with so many seasons, and so much change that's happening around the world, I walked away from that community and disconnected, for a while. And just like you said it so perfectly. It's, I'm in that season of reconnecting, creating. What do I want? And that is such a broad question. Like, well, what do you mean? What does that look like? And just really narrowing it down. What do I want? What do I want? Just asking myself over and over and over. And that's when you and I, got together and started to dive into these questions. And, so much has come up that I think it would be almost selfish if I didn't come and share, with others, because I'm sure there's other women that feel just like me, that they might be in a season, whether it's a season of grieving, that they're either grieving a season of their life, whatever that may look like. They have, children that are moving out of the house, it could be a divorce that they're, going through. Maybe it's a new chapter of their life in a good way, and they have to grieve that old self, right, that they once, were or identified with. And now what does it look like now? And just the possibilities that you can create an amazing life, whatever circumstance or whatever situation you're in, it's possible. And that's why, when I reached out to you, Paola, it's like, we should really get together and share this vulnerable conversation with other women, that, you're not alone. There could be someone else. Yeah, just like that.
Absolutely,
Right.
absolutely. And yes, it's all about that what do you want? Like that next step, because oftentimes we are caught up in the what do I do next? Like what's next for me, and what is your next chapter? Or people ask you like what's next for you? And many times we don't even know what we want. Like we have been doing
Right.
the inner work of like knowing, like diving deeper and deeper and deeper and getting like more like familiarized with what that is, what that looks like. But for those who have not even considered it, or who have been so consumed in life and in pleasing others and in being the mom and being the wife and being this and being like all the labels and all the titles, and forgetting about what do I want, like as a person, as a human being, as a woman? And so transitioning from a relationship and moving to that next step, to that next chapter, it takes a lot of courage. So yes, your name, like that movement that you have created, it's so well,
Yeah,
it's like, it's
right.
exactly how you have been stepping up. And also like what you were saying is the grieving of the relationship, or the grieving of who you were before, or the grieving of a part of you that's no longer there because it doesn't serve you to like that future
Right,
that you want. So there's
right.
nothing wrong
Mhm.
about it. It's not like it's right or it's wrong, or it should be this way or it should be the other. It's more about, okay, I acknowledge that this is happening. And so what do I really want? And being clear about what that vision is, what that one thing that we're creating is, so that then we can take those steps that lead us closer, that take us closer to it, right? And
Right.
so speaking of that, tell us about like that. What is it that stops us, or what do you see, or what perhaps in your case, like what is that one thing that holds you back from saying, okay, this is my next step, and I'm actually taking that next step? It's not just thinking about it like one day, but actually leaning in and doing it.
Right, right. Yeah. So for me, where it started was just taking about, like you said, like, how do you know what you want? Right. And
Mhm.
so I noticed a pattern in myself. That's how it started. Actually, going back many, many years, right? It was just that subtle whisper, that subtle, like, why do I keep looking at certain communities, right? That uplift me or something. There was an attraction where I kept going over and over. I kept visiting. I would always visit.
Yeah.
So I want to say it like this. It's almost like you really want to learn how to swim, but I didn't have the courage to take the dive, right? To like get in the water. So
Mhm.
I would dip my toe. I would dip my toe, next time, okay, I'll dip my legs up to my knees, just there and just filling out little by little. And so with time, I noticed that, okay, I'm building the courage, or I'd like to say I was getting brave, like building. There's a gap. I obviously saw there was a gap. There was a gap between what I was doing in the moment and what I really wanted. And that gap was so big for me and in my head, that
Mhm.
when I would look down, I saw them like there's sharks, there's piranhas, and that's fear, right? It was that bridge. And I knew that to get across, to the possibility of what was attracting me, that community, all of that, is that I needed to make small steps, build that bridge so that I felt safe to take the plunge in the water, right? And that's where you and I came in, right? And what that
Yeah.
looked like for me was, okay, I'm going to immerse myself in a program with like-minded people that, want to work in themselves, that are looking to create business. I'm going to merge myself in that community. And once I did, I was like, wow, that wasn't bad. Now I look back. But the things that were holding me back, and it's not bad, but were the things that were holding me back is on that other side of the bridge. Once I started creating that bridge, there was family, friends that, aligned with who that person was, right? The old Brenda, that who she was then, and no blame to them, but they were holding me back because they were putting seeds like, are you sure you want to do that? Why would you do that? You have a great job, why would you do that? So it does cause self-doubt, because then I would question myself, well, they're right. Why do I want to do that? I already have a steady job, I would question myself. So then I would come back to the bridge, to the safe place. But that gap was still there.
Yep.
And so again, yeah, that gap. And so taking those little steps and then getting to the other side, is once you're there and you realize the possibility, right? Because then you have that group. We're like, come on, it's
Yeah.
really good over here, right?
Yeah.
But for someone that is making those steps, it's like, I don't know, because I have these people, the people that love me, the people that care about me, and they might say these things not to be, malicious and malicious intent, but they don't know any better. They haven't taken those leaps that you have. They haven't done probably internal work that you have.
Mhm.
Or that, taking that courage to enroll in a program like you did. So of course, they're only going to talk to you at where they're at and keep you there because they see it, to keep you safe, as well. You should stay over here. But then you have the other crowd. Come over here, come over here. It's really
Totally.
good.
Totally, totally. So there's some things that I want to highlight from what you're sharing. And one is baby steps. And I'm all
Right.
about baby steps because usually people think that, oh, it's a huge leap and it's like this big thing, massive change. And then it's daunting because, we just like fall into analysis paralysis and we're like, I don't know if I want to do that. Like that's way too much. That's way too much
Right.
for me, way too much risk or whatever. And plus we're dealing with the whole people telling us that no, 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 you shouldn't do that. No, 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 feeding into our fears and our self-doubt and all of that. And like you said, like once you take those little steps, baby steps, and every step takes courage. It's not like you just
Right.
do it like out of like, oh, well, this is easy. No, it does take courage. And that's why I love celebrating every one of those because it really takes a lot from you. So once you like build that bridge, and I love that you explained it like that, like you're in that bridge and you feel safe within that discomfort still because you're testing things. And
Mhm.
another thing that came up for me as you were sharing that is that every time you make a decision, even if it's the tiniest one, a tiny shift in your mindset, new people start showing up, new opportunities start showing up,
Yes,
new
yes,
possibilities start showing
yes.
up. I met you 2 years ago and we could have done so many things together, but we were just not on the bridge. Like each one of us
Right,
were in
right.
their own like corner. And me
Mhm.
taking the steps, you taking the steps, is like we met in the point where there is so much possibility now. And so for those of you who are watching us, for those of you who are listening to this, that's what it really like takes from you, the baby steps, so that you can meet the person or the place or the moment or whatever it is. Maybe you're looking for a job, maybe you're looking you're dating, maybe you are trying to
Right,
restore your marriage, or maybe you're looking for a new business venture, whatever it is that you're trying to manifest in your life. It's really
right.
you making the decision towards that vision, or actually knowing what you want, like this is what I want.
Yes, right,
And then it just starts coming together, right? Like it just falls
right.
into place in a very,
So,
very
yeah,
beautiful way. Mhm.
absolutely. And the common denominator is you. It starts with you. Whatever that change, whatever that may be, you can't point at somebody else, well, because they're not changing. Well, because it could be anything, right? My situation's not changing. Well, but it starts with us, right?
Mhm.
It's that bridge starts with us first.
Yes, yes. That bridge. And again, it's when we talk about that self-love, uh the whatever it is that you want to see in the world, whatever you want to see in your partner, whatever you want to see in your relationship, um like you get to be it first. And when we talk about love, like, oh, I want love and I want to see everybody in love, so then we get to be that. We get to be that
Right,
love, right? So that that's what we create. And so in your case, like you're being courageous, so what you bring into your life is all that. It's courage. It's all, you know.
absolutely. And I can speak to the self-love where if I if I'm looking inward, right, and also modeling the behavior that I want to attract, like you said, whether if it's a relationship, family, children, I want to model by example. So I always did that, like I have little eyes watching me. And so I want to model to them, what does it look like to put yourself first? And I know, for women, it could be really hard, right? Whatever that could be, in marriage, anything, right? It can be hard and it could be seen as selfish.
Mhm.
Well, no, it doesn't have to be that way. And I love the word that you've used many times when we've had discussion, which is nourishing, right? I love that because I think sometimes the beauty industry, hijacks what self-love and self-care, can look like.
Mhm.
But, when we nourish ourselves, right, then we can output that out, to our immediate circles, relationship, children. Yes, absolutely.
Yes, yes. So being like again, being it and self-care and self-love going hand in hand with self-care and self-care as a whole. Like it's not only the bubble baths, and it's not only the physical self-care per se, but it's
Sure. Right.
also the mind. It's also what's going on in your head, what's going on in your heart. I usually tell my clients like it doesn't matter if you're in the most luxurious bubble bath, like with the best view, best place, like the best bubbles, the most beautiful bathroom, whatever. If you immerse yourself in the water and your head is only speaking like detrimental things to you, like you're just in this negative talk, so it really doesn't go hand in hand. Whereas you can be just sitting there and drinking water and having this beautiful, nourishing conversation with yourself or in front of the mirror, like really bringing that
Right.
empowerment to yourself. So it goes hand in hand with courage, like the courage to be like that for yourself, like the courage to show up as that in front of
Right.
the mirror, like the courage to keep on going and the courage to dream, the courage to
Right.
actually
That
dive
is
deep.
loving to yourself.
Yes,
Right.
like actually dive
Mhm.
deep and say, what do I want? What do I really want? Do I have the
Mm.
courage to ask? And do I have the courage to dream? Do I have the courage to take the step? The very first
Right.
step, because the first step is really hard. And then it becomes easier because you're just like, okay, I just did it. And plus, like you were mentioning before, like you find all those cheerleaders that tell you, yes, we were waiting for you. Come on over. It's amazing.
Right.
And so I'm gonna speak for both of us here and for our communities. That's who we are. We are those cheerleaders of like, come on over, come to this
Right.
side. Like, this is beautiful. This is amazing. And we already crossed the bridge. So our job as coaches is to hold your hand, cheer you on, and show you that it's possible, that you have everything it takes within you to cross the bridge, to create it, to cross it, and to get to the other side. Because there's
Right.
you don't have to stay stuck in wherever it is that you are.
Absolutely. Right. Right. Yeah, exactly. Nobody has to do this alone. I think that sometimes we can create stories, in our head. Oh, but nobody will understand what I'm going through. Right. And I can say I'm not trying to undermine anybody's situation or issue, but definitely going through that or walking that path with someone that also does the internal work, and they themselves have coaches, right? Like they themselves has that accountability, right? Uh, to work through things as well. Like those are the people that you want to work with. Those are the people that you want to align yourself with, because sometimes, no harm, but sometimes we go to our friends or family members for advice, and it could actually sometimes cause harm rather than growth. Again, not anything intentional, but sometimes they just don't know. And they may be telling us things out of, to keep us safe,
Yes.
to keep us,
Mhm.
right? To
Yep.
keep us where we were, what they knew, or, again, so I think that's, I really recommend that, to anybody. Even when someone comes to me and I know that I can't help them in a certain area, I'll say, you know what, I don't know what to tell you about that. I'm either going to find out, right? Or I'm going to refer you to somebody else,
Yes.
because that's a specialty that I'm not sure about, and I don't want to dive into that area.
Yes.
But still, not leaving them alone. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's a place of service. And I was having that conversation earlier today. And it's really interesting that you bring it up, because we were sharing about this too. Like this is not about me getting for me. This is about you. This is about the other. This is about community. This is about serving others. And so I have a set of gifts. You have your set of gifts. No one has the same exact set of gifts. And so the power of community and the power of women coming together and linking arms and having a clear vision of service, what that means is like it opens up the possibilities for women like you who are watching to have to be served and to receive exactly what you need from the best person, from the person that can best serve you, is what I want to say. So if
Yes,
I
right.
know that Brenda can support you because her set of gifts are exactly what you need, that's the person I'm going to refer you to, and vice versa. Or maybe you need a nutritionist, or maybe you need a parenting
Yeah,
coach, or maybe you need
exactly.
whatever it
Mhm.
is. Like, this is about
Mhm.
taking you, walking you in that path so that you can take those baby steps over and over and over and over and over again, and you never stop. Because
Mhm.
that's what has supported us in our own journey, right? Like having our own coaches and
Absolutely.
having like being in the work all the time and never stopping and never settling for
Right.
anything less. Never,
Right.
I say never settle for anything less than extraordinary love. And in this case, is that love for you.
I love that. I love that. Extraordinary, right. And every relationship will be affected, when you are in extraordinary love. And that's, when I've come to you, like I've even seen the shifts in myself and my immediate surroundings, because I do want to stand for that. I want to be an extraordinary woman, I want to be an extraordinary love. And then staying in integrity with that, right? If we have standards, values, and not compromising, on what that looks like for that individual, that there is a kind way, standing, for those values, your integrity, whatever that looks like, that's absolutely what the equation, will
Yeah.
look like. Is extraordinary. Yeah. Mhm.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And this is the beauty of us coming together. And that's why it wasn't before. And that's why it's exactly now, because you're at a specific point, and I am at a specific point where we just had to, like, it was just meant to be like that, to come together and
Yes.
share our voices and to really take the stage per se and speak up about this, so that women out there like you who are listening, you can really see what's possible for you. And when you come together with other women, and the power of connection and reconnection and vulnerability, I love that you bring that up too, because it's really, really powerful. So
And it's
what's next for
possible.
you right now? Speaking of next steps, like, what is that immediate thing that's coming up ahead of you that has you like in this like butterflies in the stomach of like, oh, fear, and I'm going to do
Right.
it anyway.
Yes. So what I'd love to share is exactly that, that I am now in a season of creating, right? And just that possibility is so exciting. And it's so possible for anyone, whatever circumstance you're in.
Mhm.
Like, again, taking it, to the beginning of our conversation, when you can, have that shift, right? That mind shift, and then following through with that transformation, like, what does it look like to create, to be in that season of creation? Well, for me, I can tell you it's reconnecting with those that are going to align with my vision. They're going to support me. They're going to give me the right advice. And if they can, they'll find others, right, to help me in that gap, whatever that may look like. And so, for the women listening to, the our conversation today, what I can tell them is that it's possible. Whatever, that seed that was planted in your heart 7 years ago, 3 years ago, a week ago, it is 100% possible. It is just aligning with your value, your integrity, and what you get is extraordinary results all around. Absolutely. Can I tell you, has it been perfect? no. Life
There's a
isn't
lot of
perfect.
messy
It
stuff
can get
going.
messy. Yes. But what I can say is that I can now embrace even the messiness, that it's happening for me, not to me, not coming from that, oh, why is this happening to me? No, it's happening for a season and it's going to be okay.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's easier said than done. Like I remember when they would tell me it can be messy, it doesn't matter. Like, and me, perfectionist, and me like being so like it has to be all perfect and all to put together and everything. It's hard to grasp it. It's really hard to grasp it. However, that commitment or recommitment that we can have with ourselves, like, okay, I am committed to creating this. I am committed to getting out of my own way, or I am committed to moving to my next step. Then if that takes me recommitting with my values, with my integrity, what you were mentioning, like if what it takes is really being committed to that, then it doesn't matter how messy it is. It doesn't matter if I fail 1,000 times. It doesn't matter if
Yes.
like all
Yes.
the things,
Mhm.
because it's you're moving in the right direction. You're doing
Right.
something. You're not just staying there and paying all the prices, because it's really painful to just stay there stuck in the box.
Right. And when you're vibrating at that level, right, that's when, just like you said, you start attracting a different tribe, a different like-minded, person that will help you in your journey. They come in your life for a reason. And that's exciting, whatever that may look like, for women listening to this conversation. It could look, different in so many ways, but it's just that holding yourself, accountable. Well, what does it look like? Because I backslide, right? And then I get stuck, and then I overthink, and then I'm a perfectionist or a
Yeah.
people pleaser. But what it looks like is working with someone else that can hold you accountable. That's the
Yeah.
only way sometimes.
Yeah.
And it
And
can look like when you're going to training, right? Like if you're going to train for a marathon, you're going back to school, you can't do everything by yourself. You definitely have to have someone, uh, yeah, definitely coaching you
and
through.
yes, and also like the difference between like your family members or whatever, or your friends, or the family members or the friends that you had with your old way of being, your old self, your old version, and now moving through that growth or that next level or that new version of you, you get to have somebody that sees that with you. A person that not only holds you accountable, but also reminds you of who you are, of who you're becoming, of where you're going. It's like
Absolutely.
what's
Right.
coming up for me right now. It's like that GPS that's reminding you, like, hey, this is where you're going. Hey, it's this way, it's that way, keep going.
Right. Right.
So it doesn't drag you back to the old
Right.
being
Right.
or the old
It,
version of you.
yeah. And, just, something that I want to reinforce is that I'm not trying to say that, whether the community, right, of like, the self that you were before and you're transforming, that, they're there for a reason and they might serve for certain purposes, right? I could say like, I won't go to my aunt for business advice, right? But I'll go for my aunt because she's a great caretaker and a cook. So I'll go to her for a recipe or, something like that, right? But I won't go for her for business advice or so stuff like that, right? It's just like what I really want to, emphasize to women is that I'm not saying detach, right, from your old, community, but they're there for a reason. And sometimes we just, have to navigate like the GPS that you're saying. You just have to navigate the right. We don't, go to certain people for certain issues that they're not going to help us with. And that's also not their fault, right? When we're, well, why didn't they help me, right? I came to them
Yeah.
for this advice. And then we end up frustrated because nothing's happening, nothing's shifting, nothing's changing. And
Yeah.
that has been my ultimate fear now, is that the circumstance doesn't change, that I'm still in the same circumstance and life keeps going on, right? I think that's my fear now, where whether before I would say, oh, I'm afraid of that possibility, or, now I'm afraid of not changing, actually not growing that, so that's my shift now, right? It's like,
Yeah,
or like that bridge that we were talking about, walking over that bridge. Well, now my fear is, oh my gosh, what if I would have stayed on the other side? What would have
yes,
happened? I would have seen everything, drive by me, right? Yeah.
exactly. It's the fear of staying the same. When the fear of staying the same is greater than actually jumping off the
Right.
cliff or just taking the plunge. And
Yeah.
yes, there's fear either way, but the fear of staying the same, I think for me is greater. And so that fuels me or that pushes me to, okay, shift, grow, lean in, like just ask for support and stretch and go in different directions or in new ways so that you can create a new reality, like in that creation that you're speaking about, like creating a new reality. So letting go of what doesn't serve, like decluttering, creating space, and having a clear vision of what you want. So I actually say there's like steps. So knowing what you want clearly, then creating that space for you to receive it, and then being ready to recommit and follow through that commitment. And then
Right.
that beautiful combination is when you take the very tiny little step, the very, very tiny next step. And then when you realize, like you were saying before, you look back and you're like, wow, I have walked over this bridge, and finding cheerleaders along the way to remind you of where you're going and what you're creating, then it makes it very, very powerful. And it doesn't feel that lonely, because when women are lone wolfing things, that's when they go crazy. Like we can very well go crazy because we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah. Right. That's when, we get into overwhelm. We might get angry, frustrated, and then we're like, we don't know why.
Mhm.
Well, I think sometimes we pretend not to know why. And those are the same things that keep us stuck, is that when we're in the pretending we don't know, and
Mhm.
we're afraid to dig. And
Mhm.
and sometimes it's there. It's just on the surface. It's all there.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. I agree with that. I agree with that. So as we wrap up, this has been, this reconnection. I'm going to share with all of you. We reconnected. I had this nudge in my heart, and I was thinking about Brenda and thinking about her and thinking about her, but I hadn't taken like that step. And then it had been like both ways till one day we're like, okay, let me just send a message and see what she's up to. And we connected, and
Right.
like we realized why the nudge and why all of that was coming up. So for all of you, for all the women that are listening to us and are or watching us, what's that nudge that you have? Like, what is that one thing that's coming up for you? And what is that one thing you can take the step on right now? And if you want to like um close with something on in that regard, because I know that we were talking about that before we started recording. So if you want to kind of like close with
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Yeah, thank you for reminding us all, because absolutely, it's just like how I was talking about. Sometimes we already know, right? And we feel like, I don't know where to start. Where do I start?
Mhm.
And that nudge is a start. So if we give ourselves permission to, inquire within ourselves, like, what is it? What's that nudge? God knows better than I do what your nudge is. I can, of course, sit here and help anyone dismantle what that may be,
Yeah.
and then put it together and create, right?
Mhm.
Um, right, absolutely. So, my question is the same. If you're in a season where you're stuck, many of the women that I've worked with have been women that, have had, toxic family members, and they want to know how to detach from the family, but still be in communication with them. And they don't know where to start. They just don't know where to start because it's so entangled. Other women that I've worked with they've left a destructive relationship, whether that's, a partnership, a marriage, I work with that woman as well. And we both, have worked together at creating, what do you want to create now? Because we don't hear that many stories of
Mhm.
what do you want to create, right?
Mhm.
And so absolutely. So I'm here as well, to help anybody, walk through, what that looks like. And I would love to have a conversation with them about it. Absolutely.
Yes, yes. So that's really beautiful, especially because of all your trajectory. So we wouldn't have time right now. Like we could be
Yes.
talking here all day of all
Mhm.
the things that you have gone through. And I say it in a very respectful way. And at the same time, I want to highlight it because it's not just you coming here and saying, I can help. This is something that goes beyond because you have experienced it, because you have gone through it, because you have been breaking through over and over again in a very courageous way. And so you know what you're talking about, like you know how it feels like. And I'm sure
Right.
you are a great stand, a very solid stand for women when it comes to taking that next step, being courageous and showing up for themselves. So thank you again, Brenda, for sharing
Yes.
space
Yes.
with me and for your
Absolutely. Thank you
friendship
for
and
inviting me to the space.
yes, yes, and for your friendship and for coming together and taking a stand for extraordinary love. And in my case, I am all about having a 10 out of 10 relationship. And whether it looks like what you were saying, like detaching or coming closer or whatever, like it's
Right.
not about the
Absolutely.
definition. It's more about being in that extraordinary love, being in that 10 out of 10 relationship with everybody around you and starting with yourself, then your spouse, then your kids, then your colleagues and whoever is around you, because you get to be that source of love. And so
Right.
that's how we came together. And that is how
Yeah.
we support women. And we have our own communities that we want to blend together and bring forth so that they can benefit, so that they can really receive from our set of gifts. So
Right.
having said that, thank you again, and thank you, ladies, for watching this. This is a conversation, one of those impromptu conversations that I said, let me share this with our communities because they get to hear it, and we get to use our voice, and we get to also bring some refreshment, some nourishment
Yes.
to our community. So,
Right.
sending you so much
Absolutely.
love, ladies, and
Thank
thank
you.
you so much for your time, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.